Princess Anne reveals why Prince Philip lived away from Queen Elizabeth in his final years. For decades, they stood side by side, the ultimate royal couple. But in his final years, Prince Philip made a shocking decision to live apart from Queen Elizabeth. Now, years after her death, Princess Anne has finally revealed the truth, and even King Charles and Prince Andrew are stunned by the reveal. Was this a quiet rebellion against the crown, or was Prince Philip simply a man seeking independence after a lifetime of duty? Stay with us as we uncover the real reasons behind Prince Philip's final years, details that have remained hidden until now. Number 1. The public perception of Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth's marriage. There haven't been many couples in royal history that have stood the test of time like that of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. Their union, spanning over 7 decades, was not merely a marriage, but a cornerstone of modern monarchy. Together, they navigated the complexities of royal duties, personal sacrifices, and the ever-watchful eyes of the public. Their story began in 1939 at Dartmouth Naval College, where a young Princess Elizabeth first met the dashing cadet, Prince Philip. What started as a teenage infatuation became a deep and enduring love, and the couple finally got married in 1947, almost 8 years after they first met. Throughout her reign, the Queen often referred to Prince Philip as her strength and stay, acknowledging the support he provided. Their relationship was a blend of mutual respect, shared duty, and personal affection. In public, they presented a united front, embodying the stability and resilience of the monarchy. In private, they shared moments of companionship, with Prince Philip known to make the Queen laugh, balancing her reserved nature with his candid demeanor. However, behind the facade of royal duties, there was a lot that they hid from the public. Prince Philip made major personal sacrifices upon his wife's ascension to the throne. Instead of pursuing a promising naval career, he let go of his naval ambitions to support the Queen. This was a testament to their commitment to the crown, even at the expense of individual desires. Their partnership was not without challenges. The demands of the monarchy required them to prioritize duty over personal life, leading to long periods apart and intense public scrutiny. In the last few years of their marriage, they found peace in each other's company. They would spend more time together and would take long absences from their public duties. During this time, they would also reflect on their long relationship together. However, then in April 2021, Prince Philip unfortunately passed away. The Queen was then forced to continue her reign without her best friend. But while their marriage seemed amazing on paper, could something much worse be going on? Number 2. Prince Philip's retreat to Wood Farm, Sandringham. You see, in 2017, Prince Philip retired from public duties and chose to move from Buckingham Palace to Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate. This decision allowed him to enjoy a quieter and more private life, far from the formalities of royal engagements. At Wood Farm, he spent his days reading, painting, and occasionally hosting friends. The choice of Wood Farm held symbolic significance, as it reflected his desire for simplicity and relaxation in his later years. Its secluded location and proximity to nature made it the perfect retreat for a bloke like him. The farmhouse also carried historical importance for the royal family, having been home to Prince John in the early 20th century. Prince Philip's preference for Wood Farm over Buckingham Palace showed his aversion to the rigid formalities of palace life. He found the atmosphere at Wood Farm much more conducive to his freedom and comfort. Overall, his move to Wood Farm symbolized his wish to spend his retirement in privacy and simplicity, aligning with his values. After his passing, Queen Elizabeth II honored his memory by staying at Wood Farm during her visit to Sandringham, reflecting its deep significance to both of them. Number 3. Princess Anne speaks out, a daughter's perspective. On what would have been Prince Philip's 100th birthday, Princess Anne reflected on her father and offered her perspective on his personality. In an interview released by ITV, she spoke candidly about her father's legacy, his unique perspective on life, and the choices he made in his later years. She acknowledged the difficulty of moving forward after his passing, but emphasized the importance of honoring his memory, saying, "We all have to move on, but it's important to remember." Anne also shared fond memories of her father's practical nature and his knack for engineering solutions. She recalled how he designed a specialized trailer for grilling that became a family staple, She laughed about his attention to detail, ensuring that everything had a place and you needed to know where that was. These glimpses into his personality revealed his combination of ingenuity, discipline, and humor, a side of him the public rarely saw, but one his family cherished deeply. Touching on his decision to live apart at Wood Farm in his later years, Anne offered candid insight into his motivations. For Prince Philip, it was a matter of embracing simplicity and enjoying a degree of freedom that palace life could not provide. The move was not a retreat, but a choice to create a space where he could focus on his passions, far from the expectations of royal duties. Anne described how much he valued that privacy and autonomy, which allowed him to continue living life on his terms while maintaining a connection to his family. But speaking of family, Number 4. Was there marital tension between Philip and the Queen? Prince Philip's marriage to Queen Elizabeth II was far from a simple fairy tale. Yes, their marriage was a symbol of commitment to many, but there were a lot of complexities between them as well. You see, while he had won Queen Elizabeth over, he hadn't won over the royal family. Since he had a much less privileged upbringing, her family wasn't okay with the union. Despite this contrast being the strength of their union in the later years, Philip often struggled with his role as consort, which required him to exist in the shadow of his more prominent wife. The rigid expectations of royal protocol were a constant source of frustration for him. Known for his forthright nature, Philip found the restrictions suffocating, particularly in the early years of their marriage, when he was still adjusting to the realities of being married to the Queen of England. As a man accustomed to independence and action, he often found the ceremonial and symbolic aspects of royal life difficult to reconcile with his own identity. He spoke candidly on several occasions about feeling sidelined, once famously quipping, "I am the only man in the country not allowed to give his name to his own children." This underlying tension was further exacerbated by long periods of separation during his naval career and solo royal tours. One of the most challenging moments came during Philip's 5-month tour of the Commonwealth in 1956, when the Prince and Elizabeth often wrote letters to each other and only talked on the phone a couple of times. There were rumors of infidelity because of Prince Philip's association with people like writer Daphne du Maurier and cabaret star Hélène Corday, but there hasn't been any evidence of it whatsoever. While he frequently talked against the constraints of protocol, he was also fiercely protective of the Queen, playing a crucial role in keeping her steady during tough times. His straightforward manner and wit often lightened the burden of her responsibilities, and he grounded her. Addressing rumors of tension in their marriage, those close to the couple often pointed to their dynamic as one of deep love, punctuated by disagreements that were quickly resolved. Philip's frustrations were never about Elizabeth herself, but rather about the institution they represented. Over the years, they found a way to balance their roles, Elizabeth as the dutiful monarch and Philip as the supportive consort, who found ways to carve out his own identity within the confines of royal life. Their marriage was not without its challenges, but these very trials seemed to cement their bond, creating a partnership that stood the test of time and defined an era. Number 5. A man of independence, Philip's need for space. Even with the tough rules of royal life, Prince Philip was someone who just had to maintain his independence. His need for space was one of his defining characteristics. He just refused to be boxed in and found ways to assert his individuality. And in his later years, it became even more evident when he moved far from the grandeur of palace life. But this wasn't him neglecting his royal duties. Instead, this was a definition of his character. He was a man who, even within the most controlled environment imaginable, managed to hold on to his sense of self. It was this quiet defiance, this refusal to let the institution define him entirely, that made Philip truly remarkable. Number 6. Royal duties versus personal freedom. From the moment they married, Prince Philip understood that his role was to stand beside Queen Elizabeth, not in front, a reality that required immense personal sacrifice. Giving up his promising naval career, a path he was deeply passionate about, was one of the first major compromises he made. For a man as driven and ambitious as Philip, stepping away from his dreams to fully support his wife's duties was no small decision. Yet he made it without complaint, channeling his energy into becoming the Queen's steadfast ally, a role he fulfilled with grace and determination for over 7 decades. Philip's role as consort demanded a delicate balance of presence and restraint. He walked a step behind the Queen during public engagements, a symbolic gesture that spoke volumes about his understanding of his position. But behind the scenes, his influence was significant. He modernized the monarchy in ways that often went unnoticed, championing efficiency and encouraging the royal household to adapt to the changing times. He even helped the royals break away from excessive formality and create a more approachable royal image. This has affected how we interact with and see the royals today. When he stepped away from public life, it was a major decision, but it showed how practical he was. By then, he had taken part in 22,000 solo engagements, and he had traveled to 143 countries. He decided to slow down at the age of 95, which made sense. However, even though he was retired, he still had a very major role in the royal family. Even as his health declined, his sharp mind and quick wit endured. His time at Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate in his later years wasn't just about stepping away from royal duties. It was about living life on his terms, surrounded by the simplicity and solitude he valued deeply. Philip's life was full of contradictions. He was a man of intellect and curiosity, deeply interested in science, technology, and philosophy. Yet he occasionally made remarks that sparked controversy. His candid nature often led to missteps in public, but those who knew him personally spoke of his warmth, loyalty, and humor. For all his complexity, one thing remained constant: his devotion to the Queen and the institution they represented. Throughout his life, Philip played the ultimate supporting role, a position he embraced with a level of commitment that few could match. His sacrifices, whether in his career or his ambitions, were made not out of obligation, but out of love and duty. It was this steadfastness that earned him the Queen's admiration and the affection of those who understood the depth of his contributions. Number 7. How Queen Elizabeth responded to Philip's decision. Queen Elizabeth's relationship with Prince Philip was a testament to enduring respect and mutual understanding. When Philip made decisions rooted in his sense of independence, she supported him with grace. The Queen recognized the importance of his individuality within the confines of royal life because of how long they'd known each other. Their bond was never about control, but rather a deep partnership, one that thrived on giving each other space to grow and flourish. Even during periods where physical distance defined their routines, their connection remained unwavering, nurtured by shared values, frequent communication, and unshakable trust. This understanding between them was what allowed their marriage to endure the complexities of royal duty and personal aspirations, a balance that few could master as they did. And because of this understanding, she understood his decision to step away from the public. Number 8. King Charles and Prince Andrew's reactions. King Charles and Prince Andrew reportedly had mixed reactions to their father's decision. For Charles, who has spent his entire life preparing for the throne, Philip's choice may have seemed at odds with the duty-driven path expected of a senior royal. Yet, there was also admiration for his father's unapologetic pursuit of living on his terms, an independence Charles has often sought in his own way. Andrew, on the other hand, appeared more surprised by Philip's decision to step back, given his own complicated relationship with royal duties. For a man like Philip, who had spent decades defining what it meant to be a royal consort, his decision was a striking departure from tradition. It highlighted a perspective that the role of a royal could evolve and adapt with time, a contrast to the expectations often placed upon the next generation. Though their paths were different, both sons recognized their father's resolve and the enduring legacy of his choices. Number 9. The role of health and aging in Philip's choice. Prince Philip's declining health played a significant role in shaping his decision to step back from public life. By the time he reached his 90s, he had faced quite a lot of health challenges, including hip surgeries and heart problems. These physical limitations likely made it harder to keep up with the demanding schedule that had defined much of his life. With age came a quieter, more introspective phase of his life, a time when the pressures of royal duties no longer seemed as important as they once did. Philip's desire for peace became more clear in his later years. After decades of supporting the Queen and fulfilling royal engagements, he sought a more private existence, away from the intense scrutiny of the media and the public eye. It wasn't that he was rejecting his royal duties, but he simply realized that his health and well-being needed more attention, and perhaps, in his mind, a simpler life was the final act of independence he could afford. It was a choice that allowed him to reflect, rest, and spend more time in the company of his family without the relentless demands that had once defined his every move. Number 10. Philip's love for the countryside and simple living. The countryside was one of the few places where Prince Philip felt truly free from the confines of royal life. He loved living in rural areas, and this is something he had in him for all of his life. Philip grew up in a rough environment, with a shaky family life, and that's why he loved the countryside. It gave him a sense of stability and calm that he had always wanted. While his life as a royal left many people envying him, he just wanted peace, nature, and a quiet place. Number 11. The lasting impact of Philip's decision on the royal family. Prince Philip's decision to step back from public life in his later years has had a major impact on the family. It has also influenced how the next generation of royals might view their roles. He chose to prioritize peace, even within the confines of the monarchy. For future royals like Prince William and Prince Harry, Philip's decision is a reminder of how important it is to maintain a balance between yourself and your work. It shows that it's possible to serve the crown while also nurturing personal needs and desires. It's a lesson that in the type of life that demands so much from you, it's really important to carve out your own space. It'll teach future generations the right balance between carving out their own path and at the same time following traditions from the past. Number 12. The final goodbye. Philip and Queen Elizabeth's bond until the end. Even as Prince Philip stepped back from royal duties and embraced a quieter life, the bond between him and Queen Elizabeth remained unshaken. Despite the physical distance between them in his later years, their respect for one another only grew stronger. Philip had always been her steadfast partner, and in his final years, they maintained a deep, silent understanding of each other's needs. The Queen recognized his desire for a simpler existence and respected his decision, even as it meant less time together. Their connection was built on decades of shared experiences and mutual support, and that foundation remained solid until the end. When Philip passed, the Queen honored his wishes in a way that was deeply personal and meaningful. She made sure that his legacy would live on quietly, just as he had lived. As a way to bid him one last goodbye, she kept his memory close, overseeing arrangements that reflected his wishes for a low-key farewell. Her actions, though reserved as always, spoke volumes about the respect and love they had for one another. There was a partnership that transcended royal expectations, built on a shared history that would forever remain at the heart of the monarchy. Prince Philip's decision was not a rejection of the Queen, but rather an assertion of his own identity. His final years reflected a man who had given his all to the monarchy and simply wanted a moment of peace. His legacy remains one of duty, resilience, and independence. What do you think about Prince Philip's decision? Was it a bold statement, or simply a well-earned retreat? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more royal revelations.